The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer once wrote that there is no absurdity so palpable but that it may be firmly planted in the human head if you only begin to inculcate it before the age of 5. And he was right. And this explains why the genre of woke children's literature is thriving. It all started harmlessly enough with the book Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls. This was a hugely popular book which offers a number of profiles of brilliant women throughout history, including Michelle Obama, Maya Angelou and Yoko Ono. Nothing wrong with that, although including Coco Chanel was perhaps an odd choice given that she was an actual Nazi collaborator. Still, after this bestseller, the tone of the woke kids' books got a little more, shall we say, strident. There was Feminist Baby by Lauren Brantz, Anti-Racist Baby by Ibram X. Kendi, and The Little Girl Who Gave 0 Fs by Amy Keane. Are small children really that interested in intersectional politics? Is it wise to teach boys that they are guilty of toxic masculinity or that white children are guilty of white privilege? Is it sensible to teach mixed-race children that one of their parents is the oppressor and the other the oppressed? None of this should surprise us all that much. You might remember that last year the Arizona Department of Education released an equity toolkit explaining that even babies as young as 3 months old are capable of racial prejudice. Look at these absolute monsters. It's like a BNP rally. And there are some who have been keen to promote their political worldview through children's books. Guardian columnist Afua Hirsch wrote a book about Lady Hale, the Supreme Court judge whose controversial ruling on Brexit delivered a devastating blow to Boris Johnson's government. Now, I always thought young children were interested in getting the best toy or eating the nicest sweets or going to Alton Towers. I didn't think they were keen on the intricacies of the judicial process or advocating for our membership of an international trading bloc. I mean, I don't have children myself, but I'm pretty sure toddlers don't take much of an interest in fishing quotas. And inevitably, gender identity ideologues have picked up on this indoctrinating technique. So with so many young people now identifying as other genders or non-binary, you do have to wonder to what extent the obsessions of adults are a factor here. So, for instance, this article about how a toddler came out as trans at the age of 4 does make me a little suspicious. I mean, surely 4-year-olds can't possibly understand the concept of gender identity. And you remember this story about the 3-year-old who came out as trans. Now, when I read such stories, I'm reminded of this tweet that was posted by the trans writer Blair White. A transgender 3-year-old is like a vegan cat. We all know who's making the lifestyle choices. And this is perhaps why we need to be cautious when it comes to the political indoctrination of children. Section 406 of the Education Act, 1996, prohibits the promotion of partisan political views in the teaching of any subject. This applies not only to political belief systems, such as Marxism, but also ideological belief systems, such as critical race theory. So when the Welsh Government tried to push through the teaching of gender identity ideology to children as young as 3, are they in fact breaking the law? There seems to be some confusion here. To return to the woke children's books, so this one is called Who Are You? The Kid's Guide to Gender Identity by Brooke Pessin-Wedby. And this one is aimed at 3-year-olds, and it takes readers through the multiplicity of fashionable new identities such as genderqueer, non-binary, bigender, two-spirit. And then there's this book, It Feels Good to Be Yourself, a book about gender identity by Teresa Thorne. Let's have a look at an example of one of the pages here. See, when you were born, you couldn't tell people who you were or how you felt. They looked at you and made a guess. Maybe they got it right, maybe they got it wrong. So it would seem that for all these centuries, midwives and obstetricians have just been flipping a coin and randomly writing male or female on the birth certificate. Or maybe the confusion is arising because, according to this book, babies are born wearing underpants. Anyway, the point is that these books are lying to children. They're representing the world as they would like it to be, not how it is. Much as Stonewall has been accused of representing equality law as they would like it to be and not how it actually is. Because ideologues live in a fantasy world of their own making, and now they're expecting children to play along. But look, if people want to write these books and parents want to buy these books, that's their choice. I'm not one for seeing books banned, even if they are ideological drivel. But I think they should be criticised, and they definitely should be mocked. I mean, I even wrote a book mocking precisely this kind of thing. It was called My First Little Book of Intersectional Activism. I'm just never convinced that getting angry about books or trying to take them off sale is a good idea. When you ban something, you make it more appealing. George Orwell once wrote about how he was caned at school when he was caught reading Compton Mackenzie's novel Sinister Street. And do you think that made the book more appealing or less? And mocking these powerful ideologues is the most effective way to limit their power. They absolutely hate it. This week, footage was leaked from a meeting of Amazon executives who were concerned that a book mocking this kind of intersectional children's literature was selling remarkably well on their site. And this is a book by Matt Walsh. It's called Johnny the Walrus. And it tells the story of Johnny, a boy that likes pretending to be a walrus, using spoons as tusks. But then the online community mobilises and tells him he must either choose between being a walrus or being a human. He can't be both. And this satire of gender identity hasn't gone down too well at Amazon, who, like most corporations, are completely ideologically captured. Here's a clip.
Johnny the Walrus is a bit of a problematic book. Not a bit. It is not a bit of a problem. It's one hell of a problem. And I would preface this about what the book's about, but the customer we're going to listen to does a great job.
So in the meeting, these Amazon executives speak about how the success of the book has caused trauma to staff members and customers alike. Remember, we're talking about Johnny the Walrus here. And they start strategizing about how to demote the book on their site. And this very much reminds me of how staff members at bookshops have been caught hiding copies of books by people like Julie Bindel or Douglas Murray and other supposedly problematic authors. They see themselves as gatekeepers, not booksellers. And that's a problem. So when it comes to all these books that lie to children in the name of this new religion, we need to be smart about how we tackle it. Indoctrination of the young is always a temptation for those whose ideas would not withstand adult scrutiny. And while any teachers breaking the law in this regard should be held to account, we shouldn't start calling for censorship or for anything to be banned. We should criticise and we should mock. Because if there's one thing that the high priests of this new religion cannot bear, it's the sound of laughter.